Okay, commutative property and associative property. The main things I want you to know is the commutative property means you're moving things around. Associative property means that you're changing the group. So when they say solve something through commutative property, excuse me, you can just solve it. But if they say handle this problem, don't solve it, but handle it using the commutative property, then what they're saying is move things around. So if they give you 4 plus 7, then they want you to move that around and call it 7 plus 4, because the commutative property of addition or multiplication means that you can change the order of the numbers, but it's not going to change the answer. So this one, negative 2 plus 5, is the same as saying 5 plus negative 2. Or negative 9 plus 7 is the same as saying 7 plus a negative 9. Now, if you're using associative property, that's regrouping. So if we gave you this one, and they say don't solve it, but write it according to the associative property. Well, notice they're grouping the 2 and the 5 together here. So on the other side, you might instead say, well, let's do 3 plus 2 in the group. And then plus 5, 11. It's going on my phone right now, honey. And so the grouping changed. Because notice the answer is still the same. If you do this first, 7 plus 3 is 10. If you do this first, 5 plus 5 is 10. So the grouping changed and it kept the same answer. So this one, you could regroup it and you could call it 1 plus 3 and it wouldn't change the answer. Now, addition property of 0 means that you can add 0. You can also subtract 0 from any number that stays the same. It doesn't mean the answer is 0. It means that you can add 0 and it doesn't change the value. So 5 plus 0 is still just 5, and 6 plus 0 is still just 6, and negative 2 plus 0 is still just negative 2. The additive inverse, then, the idea behind additive inverse is that you can add the inverse or the opposite of a number, and the answer will be 0. This one is the answer is 0. Okay, so like 5 and its inverse, which is negative 5, you can add the inverse and you will get 0. 1 plus negative 1 is 0. So when you're choosing in a list, when it says, oh, what is this an example of? It does equal 0, but it's not the additive property of 0. It's the inverse additive, that you're adding opposite numbers to equal 0. Okay, so the addition property of 0 doesn't give you 0 as an answer. It's saying you can use the number 0, add or subtract with 0, and it doesn't change the answer. Then you had a couple of problems that talked about temperature. It says the temperature's average in February was negative 4.6, and in March it was 1.7. So they wanted you to find out how much did it change. And so in this case, it changed by 6.3, and from February to March, that means it went up 6.3. And frequently people are putting in negative 6.3, but you have to ask the question, what happened first? February is before March. February happened first, so the temperature went up, which makes that a positive 6.3. Same thing for this next one. If in February it was negative 5.5 and in March it was 1.5, it went up. So the answers can be positive. And this one would have gone up 7 degrees then. And then lastly, make sure you're using the calculator on these problems. Very big deal. Depending on what kind of calculator you have, there's a fraction button. All of them have fraction buttons usually. But you're looking for this AB over C idea. That's a fraction line. So if I was going to put negative 5 over 33, I'd use my negative button on the calculator, not the minus, but the negative. 2 different buttons there. And then I would type in 5, and then this AB over C button, and then 33. And then I'd say plus, and then I'd do 23, and then that AB over C button again to put the fraction line in there, and then 33. And then hit equals, and it will reduce it for you. I noticed a lot of times if the answer comes up like this, that people are reducing parts of it, and You can't reduce a fraction unless all of it can be reduced the same way. So yeah, 4 can be divided by 2, but 9 cannot. So we have to leave it this way.